5 Questions with LeRoy Butler. Now, here's Tom Silverstein.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to 5 Questions with LeRoy Butler. Here we are, already into week 7, and the Packers are coming off their first loss of the season, a pretty demoralizing 38-10, shockingly butt-kicking, as the players have referred to it.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes those games happen, but the trend that I see going back to even last year is that when they play good teams and get beat, they get their butts kicked. It's not like they're just losing by close amounts. They're getting their butts kicked. What does that say to you?
Well, loss is a loss. I think the most important thing to me would be the 38 unanswered points. I mean, that's something, because, I mean, you would think that everything looked fine. I mean, they come out, raring to go. They got up 10-0, and then, the pick six derailed everything. And then another interception, just got all out of whack. And next thing you know, the whole team is out of whack. And that happens sometimes. I mean, I just don't want people to think that for some reason these guys are leading the league in scoring. They're a Super Bowl contender after one loss. They're not. It doesn't work like that. I think the most important thing for me, Tom, is accountability. And Aaron Rodgers and the head coach, they have that. They've said what they thought was the problem. Practice. The guys didn't practice up to their level. Aaron said they needed maybe a kick in the tail for this to kind of wake up call. Because remember, some of these young guys, they're not used to this. So they probably read all the clippings, how great they were. And, they're used to, coming, playing in college. And then now, you're thinking, you walk around with your chest out like you're this and that. And next thing you know, you come down a little bit. But I will say the good news is you got to take this tape and really look at it, because everybody will do that, Tom. And you got to make sure these same mistakes won't happen again, because you will see the same thing against the Texans, okay? This is a copycat league. So they're going to think, hey, maybe we can blitz Aaron Rodgers. So they got to get the protection together, all together. They got to get that fixed, and I think they will. But also, real quick, Tom, I just think that you're watching this game, stay with the running game. Even if you're down 14 points, you can stay with the running game, even if it wasn't working, just to let your team know that I'm going to stay with my game plan. Sometimes when you deviate, now you're just kind of playing into the opponent's hand a little bit. Aaron Jones, 10 carries, 15 yards. I mean, that just won't cut it to win most games.
Yeah, and I think I sort of made a point of this in my column this morning, which is that, they had a couple of 20-yard runs. The run game wasn't completely a bust. And those 20-yard runs when a team is blitzing kind of demoralize the defense. And they sort of make you think twice about blitzing, don't they? I mean, those are the kind of plays you got to hit to back them off a little.
And you notice when you look at those plays, Tyler Urban did not play. So a lot of the jet sweep and motion, the Packers didn't do a lot of that. They got to get back to this misdirection. Even when Jamal hit it right up in there for 25 yards, Aaron Jones is kind of moving around and guys are moving around. They got to guess who has the ball. That's the reason why they were number one in the league in scoring.
Yeah.
The linebackers were confused.
It slows you down a second.
Yeah, it really does. But if you can't block, and it seemed like the offensive line couldn't block the rush, especially when David Bakhtiari went out. Now you get into more screens and draws to slow that rush down. Quick passing game, something Aaron was doing earlier, that slows a rush down.
I will say this, though. If I were Matt LaFleur and I was really confident in my defense, I would have turned that into a field position game. Once you got behind, even 21-10, you think about exactly what you're saying is just start running the ball, pound it, get your offensive line together, get used to the speed of the game. Maybe they start to pop some runs. But if you have to keep playing field position, put it on your defense. But I don't think their defense is playing well enough for him to do that.
Well, that's the thing. That wasn't really breaking news that the defense is not playing up to his level. I mean, I mean, they were giving up a lot of points all the time. The shocking thing was you scored 10 points and had the number one offense. We all know the defense is not, it's not great. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, there's not really a lot of great defenses out there, but it just seemed like the defense had some issues stopping big plays. But, with that particular defense, all you got to do is make these guys punt, once or twice a quarter. You feel like you can win because that was the recipe. But if somebody told me both quarterbacks who were first ballot Hall of Famers was going to have, one was going to have 160 yards and 2 interceptions. One was a pick six. The other one was going to have a little bit over 160 yards and 2 touchdowns, and you would win. You would think, man, something is wrong with that pitcher. But again, the reason why they won those first 4 games, Tom, they ran the ball, great protection. Aaron was sacked 5 times. I mean, Tom Brady wasn't sacked. You had 2 turnovers, your first turnovers of the season. They didn't turn the ball over. Those are the kind of things the analytics department looks at and say, oh, that's the reason why we lost. And then the fans and the media and all, they'll pick apart who fault it was. But you got to figure out what's the underlying problems of what happened, because things like this happen, but it's just the way that you lost. And that's why people bring in San Francisco, because that seemed like the last time you couldn't stop anybody and you couldn't throw or run the football against a defense that was very aggressive.
Yeah, well, you have to look at that stuff. What's the similarity between San Francisco and Tampa? I'll say defensively, they've got 2 lightning fast inside linebackers, both teams, and they have a really good front 4. And they make it hard for you to play up to their speed. And Green Bay, on the other hand, has pretty good secondary. It's not great, but they have a shutdown corner. They have a decent front 4, but they just don't have those inside linebackers. And I'm starting to wonder if that's becoming a key position in the NFL now.
It really is. I mean, if you think of a guy like Chris Barnes, you didn't really expect him to play. He probably didn't expect him to play at the beginning of the year. But it just seemed like that middle linebacker position is just not as a bigger deal like outside linebacker where the Smith brothers are.
Well, in Green Bay, it isn't.
Right. And I think, Blake Martinez, whether you like them or not, the guy was a tackling machine. And that didn't fit for what they wanted to do. They go out and get Kirksey, who was already banged up, and now he's banged up again. And now you're waiting on Kamal Martin. But I mean, I like the way Chris Barnes has been playing, him and Ty Summers. But they're just the guys to stabilize everything. You got to make sure, as Dominic Sue and some of these guys did up front, JPP, to make sure you tie up these linemen so my linebackers can run sideline to sideline.
Yeah.
That's all you need for your defensive linemen. Make sure your linebackers are not getting blocked.
I know we'll look 3 years down the road, and if we'll compare where Jordan Love is and where Patrick Queen is, the inside linebacker from LSU who's starting for the Baltimore Ravens. And even Kenneth Murray, they would have to trade up a little farther to get him. Yeah. But, we'll see, because right now, if you had made that move and drafted Queen, he'd be starting with Chris Barnes, and that wouldn't be a bad tandem right there, in the middle of your defense. And I don't know. So that'll be up for grabs. We won't know the result of that till we see what happens with Jordan Love. But I do know that if you're going to get rid of Blake Martinez, then you got to have an improvement at that position, and they didn't. So that's on Gutekunst, don't you think?
Well, yeah, no question about it. I mean, you got to. I think that's what the fans and I host a radio show in Milwaukee, 105 FM, the fan, 1250 AM, and that's what the fans all call in and say. They were hoping to get more talent on the defensive side of the ball as well as receiver. And every day they're still, even when they were 4-0, they were still calling up, complaining about it. And you have to give them space to feel that way, because that was a shocking pick with Jordan Love. I think it'll benefit in the future. But right now, Aaron Rodgers is still your best opportunity to get to the Super Bowl. So, yeah, fine. And that's fine. But You can see he didn't have great chemistry with St. Brown on his 2 passes, and it just seemed like you never really got in sync. They were trying to get the ball to Devontae Adams, and that caused 2 interceptions. So they just have to go back and understand the reason why they're 4-0, because they did it a certain way, and go back to that way. And that's the reason why I really value what the head coach, Matt LaFleur, is telling his guys, okay, enough of that. Let's get back to what we're good at.
Yeah, I mean, you can't – you have to anticipate that Devontae Adams and Equanimeous St. Brown, who hadn't played – Devontae Adams hadn't played for 3 weeks. And you know that he's going to be a little rusty. Same with Kenny Clark on the defensive side. And Equanimeous St. Brown was pretty much playing in his first NFL game in a year and a half.
Yeah.
But to me, the defense is in a position where it should be playing a lot better. And it was missing Kenny Clark for some of those games, and maybe he wasn't at 100%. But I see balls going through guys' hands that should have been interceptions.
Yeah.
You don't see the pressure that you had once seen. You see guys kind of looking at each other like, were you supposed to be there or me? And that, to me, that's really concerning.
Well, it's off of a bye week. I mean, that's the thing about it. Off of a bye week, you would think the guys were sharper, but that's the reason why Matt LaFleur said he has some issues in practice. But the good news is that Matt LaFleur never loses games back to back, and then after a bye week, these guys normally beat the next opponent by an average of 12 points. So we'll see what happens in the Texans game. But if you look at that particular game, and I know people say this, and I got to say this for a minute, Tom. They say that Aaron Rodgers don't step up in big games. Well, I really think the Saints game at the Saints was a big game. And I really think going on the road in Minnesota, the opener, and beating them at their place is a big game. So whether the media narrative depict what's a big game, I mean, I understand that, but you also have to look at the fair point of that. I don't want to dig back what happened in the past, because that wasn't Matt LaFleur, 2015 and all these years. This is moving forward this year and last year. I think that's fair.
Yeah, but the point of this is that last year or in these earlier games, Aaron Rodgers was running the offense, spreading it around. Then all of a sudden you take away an aspect of the game and make them one-dimensional, and they're no good, and they just can't function. They have to be multi-dimensional, because Aaron Rodgers can't tilt the field like he once could. Like in 2011 or 12 or 13, if they weren't running the ball, this guy could change the game on his own. But you have to be realistic about that. He's 36 now, and he needs help.
Tommy, he was sacked 5 times. He hasn't been sacked or pretty much touched all year. If they protect him, I think he really could have found some receivers open. And we're going to talk about that in X's and O's. The protection just broke down. I mean, it really did. I mean, I don't know many quarterbacks can get the ball off if you got a free guy running at you. And that's something I think they can fix. I think their offensive line is fine. They put Wagner at left tackle, but hopefully David Bakhtiari can play. And I bet you one of the biggest things they're talking about is making sure they can run the football and protect Aaron Rodgers. If you protect him, he's shown that he can pick anybody apart. But again, you have to understand that, as you just pointed out, was a good point. If you make anybody one-dimensional, you can really home in on some of your blitzes. And I got to give Todd Bowles some defensive coordinator credit.
Yes, we do.
You have to. And the reason why I like Matt LaFleur, and maybe I'm an apologist or whatever, but I like when he's transparent and accountable. He said he got out-coached. I think that makes you a better coach. I think it makes your locker room respect you more, to say maybe I wasn't on my A game. For now, guys will say maybe I wasn't on my A game. I like the fact that Aaron Rodgers said, man, we needed a kick in the butt to get, maybe that's something good for us moving forward. And then we'll have to see how they react to that. Because I see so many times, I see coaches make so many excuses why they lose games. Just be transparent with your locker room, and then I think you'll win a lot of the games you probably weren't supposed to win, and you'll probably lose a game or two that you think we let that one get away.
Okay. Well, we'll see whether that works this week, whether their practice is better. They return to the practice field today on Wednesday, and we'll know a little bit more come Sunday. So now we come to that magic moment. What's your prediction?
Well, I'll tell you what, it'll be good to go down to get on the road a little bit, to stay on the road. You got to prove you got to win on the road if you're going to go to the Super Bowl. You're stepping outside the NFC, going to the AFC, a team that fired their coach. They're in disarray. You know, J.J. Watt's there, of course. You know, Deshaun Watson is a great up-and-coming young quarterback, but this defense is not very good. The offense don't like to run the ball. I think the Packers will get back on track on a fast track down in Houston. I think they'll win a high-scoring game. Anytime the Packers score in the 30s, it's a good chance they're going to win. Low-scoring games, maybe not so much. So I think the Packers are going to win 30. What did I say, Bill? 38 to 30. And I think it'll be a shootout. I really do, because both defenses are not very good. I mean, you got to be honest with that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you got to win games like this, because it can be a shootout maybe every week. You just never know. But if Aaron can get back to the 4 touchdowns and 350, you may see Deshaun Watson do the same thing. Okay. So, but just don't turn the ball over and just protect Aaron Rodgers, and I think they'll win the game.
Okay, great. So you have a couple people you want to thank?
Yeah. I just, one of the biggest things I want to thank my sponsors of course, Pick and Save. I appreciate what they're doing. You know, I appreciate you. If you want to get my brat, you can go to GameDayBrats.com. The Jewelry Center, that's where I got my wife's ring from. I mean, if you're looking to pop the question, young man out there, that's the place to go. You can talk to Dean Murray for that. And if you're hungry, one of the best places, Ivanhoe Pub and Eatery in Racine. Those guys down there are just truly, truly amazing. I appreciate all their support. And I do a thing called Butler versus Bullying, and we're going to start to endorse books. And one of the books we're going to endorse is Max and Junkyard Dog Meets a Rascal. That's you're actually one of the rascals. No, you're not.
Yeah, probably.
You can go to Facebook.com/Max Fights Bullying to get, I think it's like $8 or $10, but it's a good book that kids can read. My son read it actually 3 times and he really liked it, because we all know that this is a different climate now with voting is going on. I actually voted early, but it's just so divided and divisive. Maybe we can come back together, but this book's just tells about how you deal with bullying, and how do you even know what's the fine line between, having fun with somebody and bullying somebody. So I wish everybody go out and pick it up.
Great. Okay. Well, don't forget to check in with X's and O's, because we have a good look at the blitz, 2 different angles of both the Tampa Bay blitz and the Packers blitz. And then don't forget to join us after the game against the Texans. We will be there to analyze everything. And for that, we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.